So I wanted to talk about this in a way where I guess I'll start with this. How is it that I hate animals or I hate dogs because I go into a doctor's office, for example, and they say, and I look and I get scared or like I'm not used to dogs. I didn't grow up with animals. And so one person gets mad that they, roll their eyes like they have to put the dog away or move it out the way. And then some someone else had to explain to them, they're not comfortable for them to move it out or whatever. And so my thing is, and then another time I was in a store and the man had it how some people have their service dog thing on them, but they're not really service dogs. You notice that when they come into the hospital also, you like, that is not a service dog. But they buy the thing and put service dog on it or whatever. And so why is it that when I get like, or move to the side, or I don't want to pet your animal, or go, oh, cutie, cutie, or whatever, it's not for me to understand, but I do think it. Why is it that I am labeled as someone that hates animals? Oh, she just hates animals. Are you fucking serious? Because if I go around people that I am used to, or I come around you, for quite a bit of time, or I see that animal on more than one occasion or whatever, and get comfortable with it, that's not a problem. It's not that I don't hate animals. I mean, it's not that I hate animals. It's not a comfort for me. And then also with like German Shepherds or Pit Bulls or something like that, I'm an older person. I'm almost 90, 80, 90 years old. And I have that vision in my head of the shows and stuff we used to watch on TV all the time with the dogs attacking black people as they were, through the protests and the riots and the stuff like that. And so those things come back up in my head, but I'm labeled as you hate them. That's not true. The same thing with what I'm trying to explain now when I talk about how I feel as a Black American female and how it relates in the workplace. Now I am called or can be looked at as a hater of immigrants or someone that hates foreigners. That is so untrue. That's not true. So I think that, and what I have always, I could talk from my experience, is that when we look at race, when we look at color, when we look at, yes, all that stuff plays a part, what background, where they come from and stuff like that. Or when we get a group of people and we start labeling all, or when you see a group of black people conversating together in a corner, you're like, oh, you got to break that shit up, disperse. It's like, I don't know. It's not all. And it's not, if you talk about a situation, it doesn't mean that you hate all of those individuals. You could be talking about a situation and you hate that situation, and that person or some of those people that you are relating to is something that you don't like. Something that you can be, hate is a strong word. I don't use that. There's nobody good enough for me to hate. But It's once I learn how to explain it in a smooth, calculated way, it'll be better. But I know what I'm saying is that the only thing I can say right now is not all. It's not all. It's not hate. To be able to say what I feel and use my voice to say what I feel. That's not hate, you know. Well, with me, it's not hate. It may be. I understand. In your eyes, you may see it as hate, you know. But I'm here to explain that there's no way in this world that I'm saying hate immigrants or hate foreigners because of certain things that has happened in the past, or because of the way the ones that I've encountered or the ones that I see think and proceed to do things for other people, which is an injustice to the things that I believe in. Something like that. All right. The title of this is going to be When Diversity Erases My Identity. And all right, so today I want to talk about something that might make some people uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable a little bit, but it needs to be said. When I speak up for myself as a Black American woman, man, I'm not creating more hate, and I'm not trying to divide anybody. I'm using my voice to talk about how certain labels and certain versions of diversity and inclusion actually erase who I am. I can only speak for myself. I don't speak for every Black person, every Black American, or every Native descended person. I'm talking about my experience in my workplaces, in my skin. So, surface diversity versus real inclusion. On paper, diversity and inclusion sounds beautiful, right? In a large hospital or corporate environment, you see cultural days, colorful clothes, traditional dances, different foods. You see flyers with every shade of brown and beige smiling together. And that part, getting to see different cultures celebrate themselves, that is not the problem. The problem is what happens underneath the flyers. Because while all of this diversity is going on, my specific identity as a Black American is still being pushed into a box that doesn't fit me. People will then soon assumed I'm African American or just African. And they get irritated when I say, no, that's not how I identify. That's not real inclusion. That's costume level inclusion on top with the same old erasure underneath. Being pushed into African, let me see. Okay, so before I go to that, I want to say something, is what I'm thinking. And, we used to have programs, diversion and inclusion, and I would even, it was back in the 90s or so, I would even buy, like, I remember wearing a jacket that had the colorful African prints on it and stuff like that. I really enjoyed those type of events because I love diversity. And the Spanish food, the Indian food, just watching all the different cultures dance and just have a good time, you know. But it for me to say that that wasn't, it's not my culture. I didn't come from that culture. Doesn't mean that I hate them. Doesn't mean that I hate immigrants, right? So let's go on. Being pushed into African when you're not. Okay, before I go there, and even recently, what did we, 2025, well, in a hospital situation, well, describe them. How did they look? Well, they were African American. No. Yeah, they were African American. Something like that. Or they say, oh, no, no, no. This is what I'm thinking. And they say he was black. And I said, no, he was African. And somebody, a nurse, somebody actually looked at me, sucked their teeth and rolled their eyes at me. So I couldn't explain anything any further. They would not understand. And so now with all this going on, every, it's on social media, it's the climate right now, and I can tell certain white people are, just certain individuals pick at me, right? And they'll come sit by me and they'll say, I forgot what happened, but they were like African American. And I didn't say anything because I'm not going to get into that with them. And they would, they're the type of people that I'm just not getting into that conversation with them. But I think they were looking for something. I know they were, for them to do it the way they did it. I just stayed quiet and go, So let me continue reading. Being pushed into African when you're not. I want to be very clear. I don't hate Africans. I don't hate immigrants. I actually enjoy seeing African cultures. The clothes, the music, the history, the pride. So let me stop there. When I do mention certain situations, like they brought that here, they're not used to light-skinned black people, so they already know the division, where however it came about to divide light skin and black skin and brown skin. And it's so funny. I think about it and I say my mother was that pretty brown skin, that copper colored brown skin with that long black hair. Her brother, my uncle, had that same skin tone. My grandfather, her father, had that same, like, Indian type look to him, right? Like the powwow Indian, not the Indians from India. It's a difference, right? I don't know, something happened along the line. And so, I think about that and I'm like, so my mother's, that brown color skin. I came out very, very light. My sister came out very, very dark. And my mother's in between. And I think about that. I think about that. And so, all right, let me go back to reading. I actually enjoy seeing African cultures, the clothes, the music, the history, the pride. But my reality is this. I'm a black American woman who does not identify as African. I have my own history, my own story, my own roots, including native ancestry that has been ignored or erased on paper. In the workplace, I've had people get mad at me because I said they're not black, they're African when I'm describing someone. I've had people correct me when I say that person is American, not African American. Suddenly, I'm the problem. just for being specific and honest about what I see and how I identify. When coworkers call me African American over and over, especially now that race and immigration are hot topics, it doesn't feel respectful. It feels like they're telling me, we've already decided what you we've already decided what you are. Just accept it. Like, for real. Come on, man. I'm not denying where I come from. I'm saying the label African American does not describe how I understand myself, my family, or my history. And I have the right to say that without being labeled hateful. Why D&I often doesn't work, in my eyes, from my experience, uh, in a lot of big workplace situations, because you cannot fix centuries of erasure and imported biases with a one-day event in a potluck. You can't call it inclusion if some people are allowed to define themselves and others are told, take this label, or you're being divisive. When I walk into work and I see all these posters about inclusion, but I'm still being pushed into an identity that doesn't fit me, that's not inclusion. That's marketing. Real inclusion would sound like this. How do you identify? What language feels respectful to you? Can you share some of your own history so we understand better? Instead, what often happens is this. People arrive from other countries with their own colorism and anti-blackness and are positioned as the voice for all black people and brown people. If I say that label doesn't fit me, or please don't call me that, I'm seen as difficult or ungrateful. My Black American and Native story gets pushed aside so someone else's narrative can be front and center. That's not inclusion. That's rearranged hierarchy. Imported hate, erase history in the workplace. When I talk about immigrants and imported hate, I'm not saying immigrants are the problem. I'm saying this. If anyone, native born or immigrant, brings colorism and anti-blackness or disrespect into the workplace and is allowed to do it unchecked, that is a problem. And I'll stop right there to say, as I have on my mind a lot of, I have come across white people or black white people or Asian white people or Hispanic white people, Indian white people, foreign white people, immigrant white people, that believe if I'm light-skinned, I must side with them with their whiteness, with their wrongdoing, whiteness. Let me read on. If people from outside my community are allowed to speak for me, define me as African American, and then dismiss my discomfort, that is a problem. If my Black American identity and my erased Native roots are treated like they don't exist, while I'm expected to clap for everybody else's culture, that is a problem. This is not about attacking immigrants. It's about right and wrong. It's about refusing to let harm, erasure, and bias get swept under the rug in the name of unity. So what am I asking for? I'm asking for the freedom to define myself without punishment. I'm asking for workplaces that don't just celebrate diversity in pictures, but actually respect the complexity of people's identities. I'm asking for room to tell the full story of what Black Americans, and especially those of us with erased Native roots, have lived through without being labeled hateful or opening our mouths. Silencing that truth in the name of unity doesn't heal anything. It just keeps sourness and resentment alive in people's hearts. If we really want to reduce tension in our organizations, we have to make room for the full story, even when it doesn't fit neatly into existing boxes. So I'll end with a couple of questions, especially for leaders in HR. How do your workplace policies and culture make room for hard truths about history and imported biases without labeling that honesty as divisive? And who is allowed to speak for diverse communities in your organization while other people's histories is still being ignored or pushed into the wrong label? If I say, are you allowing immigrants to do that for Americans? You're going to say I'm hating immigrants. If I say you allowing white people to do that for Americans, am I somebody that hates white folks? I can only speak for myself, but I will not let anyone else tell me who I am or call it hate when I say it out loud. All right.